Hey everybody, it's been a minute or two. Sorry about the delay in my appearance, but believe it or not, I have crap that goes on in my life too. But I'm back with another one. This is after a long, basically building, researching, developing, finding out what's going to work. Because what you have in front of you here are the hen's teeth that are known as Glock and Wessons, and these are basically built from parts kits and then my addition of my choice of lower. So what you have on this side is you have your SW40VE upper, which is a Sigma, and then what you had is a very early one, which is the one, yes, that Smith and Wesson was sued over, with the whole Glock lawsuit with suit knitting. They had to give them a certain amount of money on every one that they purchased or sold or whatever it was. Anyway, moving on. Then we have the SD40VE upper, and this is also made into a Glock Gen 3 style lower. This lower is a palmetto dagger lower, and the one on the SD40 was it SWV, I'm sorry, is a polymer 80 lower that I've modified the contours on because I couldn't stand all that. I called it the bling bling marks that they put. It's just if it was any, I don't think there was any functionality to it because you've got your undercut here and you still got plenty of grip to purchase if you want to do that. But they had an extra hump here, and I didn't see the functionality of it, and I thought it looked, in my opinion, tacky, so I got rid of it. Anyway, both of these had to all be hand fit, and I'm happy to report that they are completely 110% carry reliable. I will go with this one first. This one right over here, as you can see, it is clear. Nothing in the magazine, nothing in the pistol. Just to show you, there's your trigger brake. There's your reset. There's your brake. Now this is coming in at around 3¼ pounds, and the other one is coming in, I believe, at about 4½ pounds. Now I'm going to break this down for you and show you how I built it up. First of all, here's your lower. This one has in it, let me get my little pointer thing. This is a P80 cruciform, and I only polished contact points where it would go the shark fin over here and deburred it slightly where it would go over the striker safety plunger. That's another story. When I get to the lower, I'll show you. These are custom milled out rails. These aren't regular P80 rails, front and rear. They're milled out of billet stainless steel from Rook Tactical. I highly recommend them. A little on the expensive side, but worth every penny. I also have an extended takedown lever on this right over here. P80 flat face trigger that I had honed and shaped a little bit, deburred. I deburred the inside of the frame a little bit. I have on this my connector is a Ghost 3½ pound standard connector, but it's a 3½ pound connector, and I ran the stock 5-pound trigger spring. I call it a return spring because on a Glock it pulls it that way, where the striker goes that way. So you got those two forces pulling against each other. You have to find a good balance. And when I tried to run the extra power spring, the Ghost 6-pound extra power spring, that was causing me on the reset to get a double fire. Once I went up to the 5-pound, went back to the 5-pound original spring, which it's designed to work with, that problem went away. Also running an original Glock magazine release, slide lock. I'm running an original, as you can see the grooves in it, Glock magazine release. It just, I had it on hand, and it adds a little texture, and it does give you a little bit of grip on it, so it's a little bit better. The whole thing is painted, actually painted with Brownell's Alumahide, and it came out really nice. Really, really, really nice. It's extremely durable. I went a little heavy on it, but that's okay. Moving on to here's your upper over here. This is a non-captive guide rod. Just basically so I could experiment with different spring weights. And what was my magic spot was, I've got a 17, it's either 17 or 16. Someone correct me in the comments, please. But this guide rod spring, I actually cut in the original Smith & Wesson guide rod that came with this kit, and that's the one I'm running. And then I had 100%, perfect function. My slide speed was slowed down just enough where everything else that I had done, it made it up perfectly, and I got 100% perfect function no matter how much or how fast I put through it. You can see where my modification was done over here. This is for your reset. I used the original Smith & Wesson striker assembly, but I just modified it, as you can see, to a Glock profile and polished it over here. This is I believe, yeah, this one is an original striker safety right here. But I did put in a reduced power plunger spring. I'm going to disassemble this only because I hate these things. You can see what I mean. These things are a pain in the you-know-what to put back on. But for this situation, I might just go, now that I get the formula as far as what I need, because everything had to be tuned. Every spring had to be tuned. It really was a delicate dance to get this thing to run the right way, but now I figured out exactly what it's going to take and what it needs to run perfectly fine. The barrel, of course, is the original barrel. And what I did do is I polished the throat and the feed ramp so I'd get nice, reliable feeding. What I had originally done is when I took it to the range to test it the first time, I tested it on I had a test lower, not on this lower. But what had happened is I was getting, and the lower had nothing to do with it, the lower was fine. I had a problem with the extractor. The original extractor was not extracting the rounds. I was getting stovepipes. I was getting, failures to extract, not failures to eject, because I do have a Glock 40 caliber ejector in it. That's not a problem. It was right inside of here. So what I ended up doing is I'm looking around. Oh, can I buy new parts for this? It's a Sigma. I know it's probably 30 years old, this slide. Nope. You think I could find them? Nope. Forget about it. I could find some used ones that were in, dubious quality, at dubious stages of, degrading. The one I had like a chip right down at the bottom, so it wasn't getting the full purchase on it. And one thing I did notice is I looked at my Glock. I have some built on Glock uppers also, as you can see. This is a Glock 23. So I started comparing the extractors, and I said, you know something? They look similar. I wonder, since Smith & Wesson was sued by Glock, let me experiment. So I took out the calipers, and I took the original, just to cut to the chase. This is a Glock extractor. I took the original out of the Smith & Wesson, and then I took the original out of the Glock. And then what I had done is I measured them dimensionally, all the parts that mattered, that sit inside where the plungers sit, with a round. I put some dummy rounds in here, and the way they held the rounds up perfectly, but I did notice that the Glock extractor actually got full coverage on the case, whereas the Smith & Wesson one didn't. So it's like, what's up with that? So what I did is I put some dummy rounds in it, and I hand cycled it with the Glock parts in it. I even used the Glock plunger and plunger spring. Now the Smith & Wesson plunger spring had some serious tension on it. And I don't know why they're over tensioned. If someone can answer that for me, please answer. What I ended up doing is, after taking all my measurements, is I ordered brand new OEM extractor, plunger spring, and the bearing that goes on the back of the plunger spring. Came in, cleaned everything up really good, put it all together, took it out to the range, 100% function. Beautiful. This feeds now, extracts, and ejects beautifully. That was the issue I had with this. Now I would absolutely, I ran 200 flawless rounds through it. So I would absolutely trust my life to this. If anybody has any questions about this build, oh yeah, and the other thing, the front sight on it, that was actually it's a Glock front sight. It's a tritium sight with the original just white dot sights, that came with it. Because trying to find a rear sight to go on something this old, they have this notches dovetailed not only here but back here, and it's almost impossible. So I just decided to go with the front, which is a tritium, which is fine, because at nighttime this is going to black out and you're going to see that if you're going to use it, but whatever. It's what I had, and as you go along, you're going to find out the more you do with this stuff, the more, let me see if I can do this without flipping it, you're going to have spare parts, and a lot of this stuff is spare parts that I had on hand, and can I get that in there? Oh my God, look, I look good on camera for once. You should have seen me looking like a fool trying to get that in earlier, but here you go. There's your slide. And these surfaces are bare, of course, because this is a friction point. It doesn't matter. That's inside. This is a friction point. I deliberately removed the paint here and here. And that doesn't matter. So there's your Rook Tactical rails. A nice close look at the Rook Tactical rails. These are beautiful rails. I'm going to be honest with you. I got more. This is stainless steel rails. It's a two-piece rail system. They drop in. Then you put your sear block inside, you push it in, it holds it all into place, and you cross pin it back here. I spent more, I think it was like $65 for the front wheel and like another $30 for the rear, and I knew I was getting into it when I bought this. It's like a sucker's deal, I got the P80 frame. It was a serialized frame. This is not a homebrew. This is an actual serialized frame. And I think I paid like $45 for the frame. By the time if you could find the whole thing complete, you're much better off doing it like that. But this way, I got to build it. It was a custom build. And like I said, everything had to be tuned. One thing had to work hand in hand with the other. So every spring tension, every this, every that, every surface had to be measured and tuned. But now, milled it here. And on the later Smith & Wessons, there's a part you got to mill over here too. But on these earlier ones that were very Glock-like, I even put this Glock barrel drops in. But this barrel, the Smith & Wesson barrel, won't work on the Glock because it interferes with the frame. But the Glock barrel will work in the Smith & Wesson. As a matter of fact, my next project for this Glock & Wesson is I'm going to make a 9mm conversion kit. So, rails are beautiful. There's no play. You can see it goes right on. And then, it is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, I will put this puppy aside for a moment and briefly go over my other. Put this over here. Other build. Here's the other one. Here's my other Glock & Wesson. Same principles. I won't go over all it. The machining was the same. The triggers are a little different. This one, of course, has a traditional. It had a Glock trigger on it. Clear. Everything's clear. Put that magazine aside. There's your brake. There's your reset, very tactile. There's your brake. This is really sweet. There's your reset. There's your break. Now you notice there's only take up, but there's absolutely no creep in these triggers. They're all hand tuned. There you go. There's your take up. And there's the wall. That's it. Same with the other one. I spent hours hand tuning these to get reliability. I drop tested them. I have a concrete floor in here, and I put a piece of carpet, and I was tossing these things literally from like 6 feet. I was slamming them on the floor with padded carpet. The striker would not drop. There you go. There's no grit. There's no hump. Just goes there. There's your wall. That's it. Now, I'm going to break this sucker down. Same idea over here, but this one I am running a completely Glock cruciform in this one. And I am running a Ghost 3.5 pound connector in this one also. You can see up front, all Glock. That's Palmetto State Armory. The rails are Palmetto State Armory. The rear rails are Palmetto State Armory. But the internals, these are all Glock internals. And it's funny. You could probably have 100 pistols that come off the assembly line, and all of them are going to act differently with the same combination of parts. You may have to adjust it to get it to perform and work correctly. This is something that I've learned working on these. It's just a weird thing. You could literally have a pile of these all from the factory, new, but you interchange the parts, and they might be off 100,000 here, 100,000 in this part, and then it's going to act differently. So each pistol literally has to be hand-tuned if you're doing something like this. Just deburr right here on the shark fin, you know, and you don't even do anything with this. This has got a nice slippery coating on it from the factory of the Glock, and of course, just don't get any oil in here, then you're going to get misfires. Do not put oil in your connectors. No, don't do that. Stay away from oil in that area. But, of course, 40 connector. I'm sorry, 40 ejector. Original Glock. Other than that, it's Palmetto State Armory. Oh, of course, the trigger shoe is also Glock. But as you can see, I filled the ridges to smooth them out so it's more comfortable for your finger. And it is very comfortable for your finger. Now, this one I can take apart. I actually have a PSA standard weight. I believe it's a 17-pound striker or something. Not a striker, I'm sorry. It's a recoil assembly. And it's all steel, stainless steel. It's a nice unit. It's like $10 from PSA. You can't go wrong. Factory barrel. Once again, polished. It's a beautiful barrel. And then here's your slide work. Same idea with this. The reset on these are all going to be a little different. And once again, factory striker assembly from the Smith & Wesson unit, but I just modified the firing pin to mimic a Glock firing pin. And all right here, factory plunger. They don't have aftermarket plunges for this particular model as far as I know. So I just took this, profiled the edges a little bit so I wouldn't get that hump, like that false hump. They got like a pre-hump. It's weird. I don't like the way that the trigger's staged on these right here. So I just like reprofiled the edge, rounded that a little bit. High polished this, high polished the whole thing, and put in a reduced power spring. Now when the shark fin goes over this, you barely feel it. Okay, you get right to the wall. You don't have that no grit. You got no hump. It just depresses that, and it goes right over nicely. It rides right in there nicely. One other thing, if you're having excessive trigger pull, check the trigger bars. These trigger bars, I got one out of a kit, and I thought it was fine to the naked eye, but it was tweaked somehow, and every time I would draw it back, it would kind of bow a little bit. It was weird. It would bow out. It would bow out. It would kick out, and no matter what I did to try to straighten it, I got it like 95%. And would it be usable? Absolutely. But it wasn't giving me all it could give me, so I ended up swapping out for a new unit, just retuning the new unit. So anyway, there you go. There's my other Glock and Wesson. Of course, this is running all factory extractors. This one, I think the only problem I had on this before is I had some light strikes, but I cured that by, I just replaced the whole striker unit, because I think I was running originally a modified Glock firing pin in this with a Glock spring, so that was a no-go. I went back to the Smith & Wesson unit, and I just took the time and reprofiled this right here, because on the Glock, on the front of the firing pin, you just kind of reshape it so it'll fit through the round hole. This way, this is working the way it should. You got to make sure you get good engagement with your cruciform right over here. This is a big deal. So I take one of these plates, cut them in half. This is a custom plate too that I made. I shaved it down to match this, and the back of the slide is actually cut down so it would fit properly on the frame. Otherwise, you would have had like overhang and it would look ridiculous. But getting back to this is crucial. You got to have this edge right here. When this catches the back of this cruciform, you have to have good sear engagement. Now, I have nearly 100% engagement on this, and I've drop tested this also. So this catches this. When you draw back on the trigger, like so, let me set it forward. You draw back on the trigger. That will move back. If you just see how that works. The Glock trigger spring, some pistols it works in the opposite direction. This one right here, you pull, right? And it just, the Glock trigger spring, instead of resetting this way, like on the stock Smith & Wesson, the Smith & Wesson pushes that way, the Glock pulls this way, and what goes that way is the force of your striker assembly. So you have this force going one way, and you have this force going that way, and you have to find that balance. Especially when you're doing custom work like this, you have to find your own balance. The factory did this, they did the R&D, but when you're doing something like this, some people call it Frankensteining, but I call it, I don't know, I'm not an off-the-shelf kind of person. I will take the time. I have an extensive industrial mechanical background, all different phases, so I will take the time, I will measure, I will study, I will like re-blueprint it, I will remachine it, and I will make it work. And it was absolutely doable with this. And look, we're getting into almost 23 minutes in this video, super long video, but I think from an informational standpoint, it's paramount. So you have two forces working against each other, remember. Okay, see this? Watch. Watch that. Watch the shark fin. Just touch the safety. Now, the only thing that's holding this in place right now is the trigger safety of the dingus. You just get a, and then that lets it go. So if that safety was disengaged, it would just go back freely. See that? If you hold that back, this will just pull back. Just pull back. You just touch that safety. And I'm not pushing the trigger. I'm just pushing the trigger blade, the trigger safety or dingus or whatever. And once you do that, because that's engaging the back of the frame as it should, and then as soon as you hit that back, let me see if I can do it with this. See, that's a fake finger, right? Let's see, ready? That's it. That's the only thing holding it. And now I'm going to show you this. I'm going to push this forward. Watch that. See if I can get a good thing. Watch that trigger safety engage the frame, the back of it, on the back side of the trigger right here. That's very important for engagement also. Watch. It'll jump out. That's it. I don't know if you saw that. Do it again. See that? There it is right there. That jumps out. That's another thing too. If you have the wrong weight striker spring, if you have the wrong weight striker spring, especially in Glocks, if you're doing any custom work on Glocks, then what's going to happen is your trigger's not going to reset the right way. Your trigger will come out, but the trigger safety, there won't be enough force and that striker pushing forward to positively re-engage that trigger safety, then you have to have that. What's the sense of it like this? You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you have no safety there, and it could be really bad mojo. So let me pop this back together. Anybody has any questions on these builds, I can help you out. I've been through it. Would I do it again? Yeah, sure. That's fun, you know. There you go. Put it right on. Get your reels lined up. Helps if you got your... See, do I have that in there correctly? Yeah. It always helps. I do that a lot. You have to seat this down to the furthest point. There's a notch way in the bottom, and you get a false feeling sometimes when you put this in there, like you think it's in, and then you try to put your slide assembly on your frame, and you're like, oh, I want to go on. Got to seat that down a little more. So now, get that on like that. Get your reels lined up nice. See? Real nice, and then back on. Who wants to see some trigger pull weights? I want to see some trigger pull weights. Okay, let's get the gauge. So elevator music. I'll be right back, and I'll give you something to look at in the meantime. Be right back. Just be patient. I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm coming. Okay, I'm coming. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. Okay, I'm back. I'm back, and we have the manual Wheeler trigger gauge. Let's do some pulls on the, trigger weight. Don't anybody get excited. We'll see what we get. Okay. So we'll see what we get on this puppy. Oh. Okay, ready? Here we go. We got focus. There you go. So right there, we just got like 4 1/4. Can we get a focus? Yeah, 4 1/4. Let's get another pull. We'll do best of 3. Reset it. That one's 4 1/2. And it's so smooth, it's a rolling, this is a rolling break. It's not like a real, sometimes when you get the pad of your finger and you're pulling back on that trigger shoe and then it finally breaks, this isn't like a snap. This is a rolling break. I have some that snap a little, but I think that has a little bit to do with cruciform engagement and the plunger and the safety where the shark fin goes over it, but that's all tunable. I just spent an insane amount of time on these Glock and Wesson builds, and you got to have patience to do it. Retrieve one more pull. Yeah. So that's a regular pull. So that's 4 1/2, just under 4 1/2. See, it's more like. See. So it's under 4 1/2 pounds. It's like legitimately like 4 1/4 pounds. Yeah, we can call it 4 1/2. Or see, it's just under. If I really play with it, I can get 4 1/4. But anyway, that's that one. That's your take up. That's it right there. See, all you Smith and Wesson guys are going, how come I can't get my apex? Well, you got to get rid of that Smith and Wesson frame. It's junk. The way Smith and Wesson set those frames up, I know people can say it was made for self-defense. Yeah, but it's made for self-insanity. It'll drive you freaking crazy trying to apex it out and everything. And you can make it better, but you're not going to get it like this. Ready? Take up. That's it. And there's no humpy, no grittiness, nothing. I literally, when I draw this back, I put it to my ear. I don't want to hear any grit. I don't want to feel any grit. There's your wall. Ready? Take up. It's a wall right there. That's it. Break. Reset. That's it. Right there. Then break again. Reset. That's it. Break. Now the other one. So 4.5 on this one. Empty, empty, everybody, okay? I don't want everybody having a bird. Okay, here we go. Now, once again, empty, empty. Long video, but this is for informational purposes. It's really important. Okay. Oops. Jeez, lost a hold of that one. Okay, let's get a pull on this one. We are zeroed. We are zeroed. See? Okay, we're zeroed all the way down. Three and a half. Do it again. Just a hair under 3.5. It's consistent. And it's hard to get the consistency. This is why you have to tune these things. Again. Okay. God, if I could even get close to this. Okay. Here we go. There you go. Ball's on. Just a tad under 3.5 pounds. And that is a nice, clean, rolling break. I mean, it gets to that wall and it just breaks. It like, sometimes it's kind of hard to explain. You have to get on the pistol and spend some trigger time on it. And you'll know what I mean. If you've done this before, you'll know what I mean. But there's a difference. Sometimes you can get a 3.5 pound break, but it's like a snap. But this is more like a roll. And it breaks. And it doesn't feel mushy at all, but it's a nice clean. Here's your reset, right? Actually, let me bring it out. Start over. Flat face trigger, obviously, on this one. See, there you go. There you go. There's your take up. That's it. And you're at the wall right there. You're at the wall. Ready? And then break. That's it. Look at that. I mean, let's do that one more time. And that's it. And there's your break. And here's your reset. That's it. Break. Reset. Break. Full. Okay. We have full dingus engagement. Trigger safety. This was another thing. Had to be tuned with all the different spring weights. You had to find the right formula. Take up. Get good spring return. Ready? Okay, hold on. Ready? That's it. You're at the wall. That's it. One more time. Man, I'll tell you, after working on this and tuning it, right down to refinishing and reprofiling the frame. This is a P80 frame, like I said, people. I think it looks a hell of a lot better than a regular P80 frame. I don't like that extra, I don't know what the hell, it's a Kumo D-bump or some bullshit at the bottom, but this is... so much better like this. So much better like this. Not flagging, you can just take a look at the business end. And yeah, there you go, ready? Big boy cartridge, big enough. Okay. What's good about this too is it's got the witness hole right over here, the loaded chamber indicator, but it also has the newer Glock generation extractor, And this has the bump on it. So when you have a round in the chamber, you have a tactile. You actually have a tactile indicator. So you have two, with the redesign of this, actually designed in, almost mistakenly by accident, a secondary tactile indicator for loaded chamber. So this will actually bump out. That's what that's for. They have the older generation Glocks that have a smooth one, and someone said, hey, we could actually put a bump on there, and you can feel it. Feel. Yeah, it's good, but it does. So I have two different loaded chamber indicators. This is actually safer than the factory. Okay, one more time. Who's sick of me watching doing trigger pulls? That's it. Ready? Take up. That's it. Wall. Reset. Fire. That's it. I mean, literally, that is such a sweet trigger on this. I mean, I'd have to be lying if I wasn't saying I wasn't a little proud of this one. Quick thing. These magazines, these are actually KCI bodies. The bodies are excellent, but the guts are all I got a Glock base plate. Glock original followers, and I have Wolf extra power springs in them, and I'm going to tell you why, because the bodies are beautiful. The bodies are top quality, but the springs that came in them were a little weak, and the followers, probably can't see it, but right here where your slide lock will engage to hold back after the last round. Let me see, can I get this? Can I get a better shot? There, right there. The slide lock, even the Glock OEM, was just hitting the edge of it on the KCI followers, and it was slipping off, and that was one of my problems I had to work through. Now, would it have been cheaper for me to go and buy Glock mags from the jump? Yeah, live and learn, right? I think I spent like $8 a piece for the KCI mags. Like, oh, I'm getting a great deal. Then it cost me like $4 for each Glock mag follower once I figured out that was a weak point. And then I go and buy the Wolf Springs. Those are like, I don't know, what are they, $3 or $6 a piece, whatever they are. So yes, I could have went out, and there are places online that have like, LEO magazines, and you can buy them and they'll work fine, but that's what I'll do next time. But hey, I have custom magazines too, and they work beautifully fine. The magazine bodies are also, as you can see, set up for the Ambi magazine release. But anyway, look at, here we are. There's one. There's the other. And what we have here, my friends, are the two Glock and Wesson builds. Done. They're all shaken down. The bugs were all worked out. And I'm extremely happy. And yes, I would absolutely bet my life on these two weapons right here. They're all they can be. Absolutely. And it's not, this isn't an Army commercial, be all you can be, but they're great weapons. They really are. Oh, one last thing. Oh my God, but there's more, right? Watch this. And just say, if this has got, the 15 round magazines in this one right here. If you wanted to carry this, let me put this one aside. If you wanted to carry this, I know we're getting into 40 minutes now, right? If you wanted to carry this and you wanted to conceal a little bit better, you didn't want the heel kicking out on you, well, guess what? We got something for that too. Do you want to know why? Oh, look. I got an extra frame. I got a compact frame. So, and I tuned it perfectly. There you go. So, that being said, people, and of course they're both in 40. And here we have it. We're going to wrap it up. Glock and Wessons, Smith and Daggers. Well, you couldn't call this one a Smith and Dagger. You'd have to call it a Smith and 80 or something like that. But anyway, in short, this is the wrap up to the Glock and Wessons. They are complete, proven, and I hope you got something out of this video. I'm sorry it was long-winded, but I think from a technical aspect, it's important to kind of go over and drone a little bit to go over these things. And if you're into such things, I think you would have got value out of it. Please like, subscribe, thumbs up if you want to see more content like this. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Please leave it below and hit the thumbs up button, like and subscribe. I will have some more videos coming your way soon. I promise they won't be 40 minutes long, okay? Thanks again for tuning in. Everybody, I hope you had a great 4th. Have a great rest of your day.